あの、アビゲイルさんたちは、そうやって実際に今、私たちが手元で情報が入るのは、4.0ぐらいのリーダーシップなんですけど、それを4.5とか、さらに5.0とか、そういうことまでも、トレーニングプログラムに組み込んでると思うんですけれども、それってどういうことなんでしょうか？日本の人たちは多分、そんなこと本当にやれるのっていうふうに思ってると思うんですけれども。
Yeah, happy to. And this is just this is me elaborating on something I just spoke about, but it's just giving a bit more detail. So, again, when we're operating in a collective of humans, we get into habit patterns fairly quickly. Who talks first, who doesn't talk, how much somebody talks, how we negotiate when there's conflict. So we're filled with habit patterns as humans. We develop those patterns from our families, from our culture, and we bring them into our work environment because we don't know anything else. And so when we're seeking to create a developmentally aware collective, it's really important to be conscious of how we're impacting each other and how we can start to shift some of those dynamics. And I'll just mention three elements that I think are really important. One is touching the sacred ground of what it means to be human in the first place. So that's that acknowledgement that there's a deeper whole or deeper awareness that is really our true self. And so in a sense, this is something of a spiritual practice, is just to recognize that while I myself am limited and partial and have blind spots, there's also some dimension of me that's already whole. And so it's that sacred recognition of ourselves that I think helps to lift the possibility of a new future. So that's a really important element. Another important element is recognizing that we do create ceilings on each other's development. So, we might acknowledge as we come to know each other that I have a certain way of talking that doesn't bring out the best in you. And so it's being willing to be honest and vulnerable and to have challenging conversations about those dynamics. So something we do in the Generating Transformative Change program is a conscious practice is to actually name those patterns as they're arising, if we can. It's a practice to develop. And one of the ways we do that is we do shadow work at the level of individuals, but we also do it at the level of the collective. So that is where we would recognize and acknowledge the views that I have of you that might be limiting, and also the views that I have of you that might bring out some of the best of you. And then you would do the same with me. And when we're willing and able to share those things with each other, it's very hard to do that. It's not something that is socially acceptable, and I would say in my own cultural context. But what it does is it generates trust. It generates our capacity to have hard conversations, and it actually seems to liberate those limitations in a way that is almost paradoxical. It's almost hard to believe that if I say the thing about you that I'm trying to hide actually doesn't make things worse but makes things better is something that I think we don't commonly expect. But what we notice is it liberates the collective, and it also deepens trust in a way that strengthens the collective's ability to have mature relationships. So touching the sacred ground, noticing the ways we create ceilings on each other's development, and then engaging practices that help us to lift some of those ceilings. Those are, some of the, I think, really critical elements.
ありがとうございます。今、シャドーワークって話も出たんですけれども、そういう、シャドウっていうものについての、ワークをしていくってことっていうのは、すごく自分たちにとって、そんなことが必要なのっていう感じになって、そこの必要性を理解するっていうのは結構チャレンジングになると思うんですけれども、アビエルさんの周りでは、そういったことも、皆さん、スムーズに受け入れるというか、無理なく受け入れてるっていうふうに思われますか？
No, I think it's always challenging. I don't think it's not natural to want to turn towards the parts of ourselves that we may be unconscious about or even ashamed of or afraid to explore. So I think it's humanly, it's not common at all, and it's not easy. I'm thinking in this moment about when we did this work in Ethiopia, as well as in the US and in Australia and New Zealand as well, where we have the program. It's always hard, and sometimes people don't have any experience around doing it, and we hold the process with a lot of care and love, and also take it slowly. But I think one of the gifts is, and one of the fundamental principles of shadow work is that, these arise, the shadow elements of ourselves went into the shadow at fairly young ages, because for some reason, the feedback we got from our family, from the world, is that some element of ourself wasn't acceptable. It might be something beautiful about us, or it could be something hard about us, but it goes into the shadow. And so while it's really hard to bring those pieces back into the light of day, actually, as we do it, it's a process of healing and a process of integration. So it's scary to go into it, but the gifts make the fear, or the trepidation that people have, make it appear to make it worth it. Because when we come out the other side, we're more whole than when we started, and there's nothing more life-giving than that.
今もエチオピアの話出たんですけども、日本の人からしたらエチオピアってどんなとこで、どうしてそんなところでトレーニングしたんだろうというふうに興味持った人いると思うんで、ちょっとエチオピアもどういう経緯でそのトレーニングすることになったのかとか教えていただいてもいいですか？
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. Our connection there is because when we started with the GTC program, that's the acronym we use. That was about 15 years ago. There was, in the first cohort, there was an Ethiopian woman who had the vision to bring this program to Africa. So that was the original impetus, and we just followed that momentum. So over time, we had other participants coming from the African continent, but Ethiopia in particular, who always had the vision to start the program there. The same as we had some participants from Australia and New Zealand who also wanted to start a program there. And so in both cases, the graduates of the program started to do the work to start the program, and then we were able to support that from North America. And currently GTC Africa is on pause, but the faculty are still engaged, and I think we'll be offering it again soon. So that was the reason. And I can see other possibilities. We've got some connections also in China, as well as in Europe, with the hope to be able to do the same.
GTC プログラムについて15年もされてるってことなんですが、それについてももう少し教えてもらえますか？それは、企業のリーダーの人が参加するんですか？学校の先生が参加するんですか？どういう人が参加して、どんな人数でどんなことをするのか、概要を教えていただけますか？
Yeah, and I'll share. I was a participant in GTC actually about 15 years ago. So I was a participant originally, which is what introduced me to this work, and it's where I met Terry O'Fallon, and then I became faculty 5 or 6 years ago. The participants in GTC they come from all walks of life, which is, people don't expect that, I think, because it's, we call it a leadership development program. And so then you imagine it's people holding leadership positions in different professions. Sometimes people are in leadership positions, sometimes they're not. So we have coaches, we have consultants, educators, CEOs, ministers. So really people come from all walks of life. And I think what unites them, or what's a common element, is that they have a sense that something deeper is possible in their life or work, and they want support to explore what that is, or to enact it. And so that's and they're interested in their own development as a part of that journey. So that's the common element. And our cohorts are small because we do such deep work together. So they're typically around 15 people per group.
ありがとうございます。